Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, college coaches and softball fans. My name is Coach Anthony Williams. I'm the founder and CEO of Connected Athletics. We are a new startup company based here in Austin, Texas, where we're focused on providing a technology platform that's going to allow middle school, high school, college student athletes and pro athletes a platform to tell their story, to share their journey. As we just talked about with Kayla here, who we'll get to in a second, I think athletes are at a point now where they don't have to depend upon ESPN or Fox or CNN or whoever to tell their story. They now have the platform and technology to tell their own story in their own words. And believe me when I say, nobody tells your story better than you. So with that said, before I get into our guest tonight, I want to thank our sponsors. First one is Buffalo Wild Wings. Good friend of mine, Brian Soltis, also is passionate about helping student athletes maximize their eligibility. So he has got me partnered with Buffalo Wild Wings to help spread the news across the country. So I want to thank Buffalo Wild Wings. Secondly, I want to thank my friends at Go Edit Graphics. They are a graphic design company based out of Nebraska, and they provide products and services for high school and college athletic programs who want to use some pre-designed graphics to do outbound communication, player spotlights, schedule changes, any outbound communication about their different Title IX sports. They can use some of their designs to personalize it with their colors, with their logo, things like that. So shout out to my guy, Zach, and the rest of the team at Go Edit Graphics. And then lastly, my good friend, Stefan Johnson, he has started a new sports apparel company called Epic 247. Epic stands for Every Play I Compete, and they do uniforms and jerseys and gear and workout stuff. They do a lot of great stuff, but it's got its own dazzling creative design. So if you're looking for some new sports apparel to wear in your workout or for your season, contact the guys at Epic 24/7. With all that said, I'm feeling very proud and probably will get a little emotional during this interview. This young lady you're about to hear from is somebody I've known since she was, I think, 10 or 11 years old. When I was blessed to coach her in one of the softball clubs, I was working with the Austin Stars Garcia goal team. She has went on and done tremendous things, and I think she's got a great story that's going to help some student athlete out there to understand that the greatness you see today wasn't always there. There was a start, and when you started, you may not have been the person you are now, but you're going to find out how to get there. So I want to introduce, I would say a friend, but she's more like a daughter to me, Kayla Kowalik. She is the catcher for the University of Kentucky Wildcats. Just finished her sophomore year. You can see there on her graphic, she had a tremendous year, batted an ungodly 495 this year at NCAA, led the team in triples, had all kind of records, had probably the best overall softball career, not just at University of Kentucky, but maybe in all of softball. Kayla, I call her KK, she has been just a tremendous spokesperson for the University of Kentucky softball program and for the university. With all that said, because I can go on and on about how proud I am of her, but let me kick it over. KK, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing just fine, Coach Anthony. Today I started summer classes and we've been getting into summer workouts and practicing and making sure that we're staying on top of our game. So today's been actually a very good day. The weather's great. It's always a great day when you get to wake up.
Well, are you physically back in Texas or no?
I just got back from Texas. I've been in Lexington for the last few days, worked a bit of camp, and I'll probably be here up until about August 15th when my classes end, and I'll go home for a week or two.
Okay, great. Well, KK, let's jump right in because I think it's just so much of your story and not just you. And I have to mention my other daughter, her twin sister, Gabby, who had also had a tremendous year. She is another one of my favorite athletes who has, as you hear from KK, developed herself. She is a completely different young lady now than she was back at 10, 11 years old, very shy and talk quiet. So shout out to you, Gabby. Miss you, love you, very proud of all the things you're accomplishing in your future engineering career, like myself. But anyway, KK, back to you. So let's start here. So let's go back. We can easily start with the season and the great season you had, but let's talk about the journey and how you got here. I met you when you had just left another club softball organization. Whatever the issues were, you came to Austin Stars, and I took the notion of, you know what, let's teach these girls about the kinesiology of being a good athlete. Introduce you guys to ladders and all that kind of stuff. Just tell, in your own words, talk about the journey from playing with one of the top softball organizations in the country, playing for the little itty bitty Stars and then moving on to glory and then on into high school and college. Let's talk about that a little bit. Start us there.
Oh yeah, so I definitely think that, I'm playing for a big program now. I definitely haven't always played for a big program, and I know this for a fact that I can credit most of my success to, starting off with you guys when I was very young. Texas Bombers was great, but when I transitioned over to the Austin Stars, things were just different. We treated things differently. We broke things down, worked on the fundamentals, and even to this day, like this morning, I worked out and ran with my team, and we were doing ladders that, we used to do when I was 11 and 12. And I'm like, man, I remember doing this. I remember struggling with this. And, you guys the way you guys broke things down, just to this day has made sense, to this day has absolutely stuck with me, that hard work pays off, and that, you have to hustle everywhere, carry your own bag, do these things for yourselves to make yourself stand out, to make yourself, a strong young woman that, is very independent and can rely on herself. And, those things that I'm still carrying with me today that I still think about on the daily. And that, when my team needs a pick me up, I'm saying, hey guys, like this hard work that we put in, like, let's make it pay off. Things that, like, I was 11, 12 years old when you guys were telling me that stuff. And like, I want you to know that that has absolutely stuck with me. And like, I still use that in my day-to-day life. But I just think coming from, just you guys and, the small team that we had 12 girls on our team at one point, where I'm pretty sure I was one of the only catchers and had to catch majority of the games. It was awesome. But just things like that creates just a foundation for, things aren't just handed to you, and, coaches just don't give things to you because, you think that you deserve it. You have to earn it. And it's the same thing with college. And you get here and you think that you've committed here and now the coach owes you something. The coach owes you nothing once you step on campus. You have to prove that you deserve this. So I definitely think that coming from the Austin Stars has definitely shaped who I am, and then only benefited me as I went to Texas Glory. And, that was the team that I ended up, I think, the summer before my freshman year in Colorado was, where Coach Lawson and Coach Himes and first saw me play. I was I think 14 or 15, and it's like I just got off the phone with them a couple days ago talking about it. They're like, hey, this is where we first saw you. Fun memories. I'm like, yeah, that was, 6, 7 years ago. And, I'm still here, and I'm so grateful for, everything that has come afterwards and after you guys.
Well, there's so many stories I could tell, but I will tell the one you mentioned about you being the only catcher. For those that don't know softball, travel club softball, we used to play 5 games in a day. Your first game, and God, we used to live in the loser bracket. We lose the first game 3-2, and then we come all the way back and win these games. But we'd always ask KK, "You okay to catch this game?" And your answer was always, "Yeah, I'm good." Not like, "Well, on my back." You always said, "Yeah, I'm good." You probably caught more games than anybody I've ever met or coached before. You did it with the right attitude of, "Hey, the team needs me, and I got to do this." And I don't really see that from a lot of athletes now. The parents tell them, "Oh no, baby, you're tired." And to me, if you tell somebody they're tired, they're like, "Well, I guess I should be tired." That's not in you. That's not part of your DNA. I really do appreciate you doing that. I want to talk about another part that you kind of skipped over a little bit. You went from playing with 3 great organizations, the Bombers, the Stars, and Texas Glory, and then you played for a small high school. People were like, I will be honest, let's keep it real here. People were saying, "Oh, you're at a small school. You and your sister should be dominating. You guys won a couple of state titles, but it wasn't 5A, it wasn't 6A." Talk about that. I won't call it shade, I won't call it hate, but talk about those conversations you had to have and say, "Hey, no matter what school I went to, I'm going to be that girl." Talk a little bit about that experience.
Well, I definitely think so. I've always been such like a small, like, I feel like a homebody, small teams are my thing, small environments. Even like the small high school I went to, it's just something that, I always grew up around. I love the personable experiences that I get from that. I love the bonds that I make. I love the friendships that I still have with you. And I still see my high school coaches every time that I'm back in town. And, I definitely remember hearing a lot of stuff, my freshman year before I went in and afterwards. And, about, people saying like, why are both me and my sister going to a small private high school? And, why aren't we going to, because we could have played at Canyon High School and we could have played at any public high school. But, I just think it comes down to what's best for you. And at the point, that was what was best for us. And outward opinions don't really bother my sister or I very much anymore. But it was just standpoint of, the smaller environment. We grew there. We have friendships that we still are extremely close with, and just the learning environment. My sister can talk a little bit about that, but it helped us so much, especially now in college. I don't think the academic side was ever a struggle for both my sister or I. From the start, it was never a big adjustment because, we went to a college prep school, and I just think that there's something to be said for building a program from the ground up. And, you don't give up on a team or a high school just because they're small and people don't expect you to be good. You can go there and you can change, the way people look at softball. And while we were there, Gabby and I were able to do that. And we were very blessed and very grateful for that. But I just think there's something to be said for building something from the ground up. You don't always have to go to a well-established school and just exist there. And, I'm really appreciative for what we were able to do there. And I had the time of my life in high school.
Well, and for those student athletes that are out there listening to KK right now, the one thing I also love about her and her sister and her mom, Jennifer, obviously softball is year round. You've got fall, and then you've got spring. You get to high school, you're playing for high school in spring, and then you've got summer. But you guys were still able to find time to keep your grades up, play basketball, and play volleyball. Talk about the experience and how it's helped you as an athlete now in softball at the college level by playing other sports and developing other skills.
Oh, absolutely. So I was a 3, sometimes 4 sport athlete going through middle school and high school. And I still have skills that, volleyball, softball, not very similar sports, but there are still things in volleyball that have helped me to this day. The arm swing's the same. The strength that I've built in my legs from volleyball, absolutely the same. I ran track. I am a catcher, but I'm also very fast when I'm running the bases. And, track has helped me with that. And it's kind of one of those things of, my schedule was extremely busy, but could I take a break? Yes. But did that also prepare me for college? Absolutely. Did I want to go from softball practice straight to track practice? No. Was it exhausting? Yes. Did I do it? Yes. Did I grind? Yes. And that's just something that has made me better and stronger to where, I can look at a full day of practice and be like, I've done this before and I know what this feels like. And I'm definitely stronger for it in college. And that also wasn't a very big adjustment for me because going from practice to practice and practice to meeting is something that I was used to. Going from class to volleyball practice, from class to softball, and then track. It also helped me create so many memories and friends because I went to a small high school that, my volleyball teammates were also my softball teammates, and they were also the people that I ran relays with and track and played basketball with. So I just think it's one of those things where while you can do it, why allow yourself to miss out on it? College is not necessarily a place where, there are a lot of multi-sport athletes in college, but it's also a lot more rare. And if you can take the time to do something else that you love and, take a little bit of a break from softball so I can play volleyball and I can still have fun and I can still compete and be athletic and do what I love to do, which is compete, then I'm going to do it. And why miss out on that?
Well, a lot of great points there, KK. But one thing you didn't mention was being a good athlete in all 4 of those sports, but keeping your grades up. And I know that was important to your mom and dad and myself. Talk about that side of it. There's a lot of athletes out there that they spend so much time focused on being the best hitter, the fastest sprinter, or whatever, and then they don't put in that same kind of grind towards their grades. And talk about how you were able to, and you've heard me say many times, sport is a great teacher of life skills. Talk about the time management that it takes you to play all those 4 sports at a high level and keep your grades up that you can still qualify and go to a school like Kentucky.
I think, time management, even for me now, is still a little bit difficult. Time management, I think, is something that people struggle with all the time. In high school, it was, waking up early, making sure I was at school early so I could visit my teachers, and making sure that I communicated to my teachers that maybe I would miss for a softball game, maybe I would miss for a track meet or something, and making sure that I was in their classroom before school started so that I could work on the lessons that we weren't doing, or I could meet up with friends to make sure I was studying. And, it's in between, school ending and practice starting, maybe JV's practicing, I'm doing homework instead of hanging out or going out. And it's just making sure that you're using the time, because when you break it down and you break down the day, you do have quite a bit of free time. It's just how are you going to use that free time? Making sure that after practice, you're getting your homework done before you go to bed, before you decide to go play games or hang out with friends. Um, it definitely that was, I think, my high school struggle, and is what has made college easier for me, was making sure that, my free time that I did have, I was making sure that it was being applied to school, that I was studying, I was paying attention in class. You cut down half of your studying when you pay attention in class. And I'll tell you that right now. If you don't pay attention in class, you automatically have to study 2 times more to go over the information and then review it. So just a simple, making sure that you are 100% locked in class already cuts down on half of your studying time, because you've already learned the information. Now you just need to review it. So it's just a matter of, where can you find these pockets of time to not only take extra time to visit your professors or your teachers or your mentors, to make sure that they know what's going on, what's going on, what to expect, and making sure that you can get your work done.
Yeah, so a lot of great points there also. And then obviously, like I said, time management is important, but also decision making is important. That free time you talked about, you have that decision point of, do I go talk to my professor, or to go hang out with that little cute guy from the track team, or that little cute guy, hey, there's a party going on in the dorms. I mean, let's keep it real. I mean, you're a student athlete. I was there a long time ago. Talk about that decision point and how it really kind of makes or breaks you as a student athlete, especially in college.
Oh, absolutely. So I think part of this helped with the way, my parents raised me, was that, you can't go out and have fun all the time. You know, you had fun last night, let's reel it in. Let's do schoolwork today. Let's do something fundamental. Let's do something that's going to benefit you. And I'm going to say something that Placido said when I was 11, 12 years old, something that still has stuck with me, is that at Texas State, Ricky Woodard would say, you can be good at 3 things. You can be good at socializing, you can be good at school, or you can be good at your sport. You can't be good at all 3. And it's just making the decision of which 2 that you want to be good at. And that doesn't mean that, you choose school and sport. That doesn't mean your life is going to be terrible. It doesn't mean you aren't going to have fun. It just means that you need to prioritize those other 2 things over having fun. I like to prioritize my school and my sport. Sometimes probably my sport over school, but I still prioritize those 2 things, but I still have fun, and I still have, the time of my life here. I still hang out with my friends, and I still see them on the daily. But it comes to the point of, you give yourself, okay, today's my fun day. And then here's my rest day and my productive day that I get things done. Everything in moderation is absolutely fine. I don't even think going overboard with studying is really necessarily healthy. Same way going overboard with socialization. So I just definitely think moderation, is the best way to, attack these things. Don't limit yourself. Don't allow yourself to have fun, but make sure it's within the limitations that you can still succeed in the classroom and on the field.
Right, great response. I like that. One more thing, we talked about your transition before we get to UK and your experience there. You played in a lot of big tournaments. We went to PGF. You've been out to Firecracker. You've been at some big East Coast tournaments when you joined the Glory. I know a lot of kids. I talked to a lot of student athletes who have played softball, and they think, oh, I played for X, Firecrackers, Bombers, Blades, fill in the blank. Oh, I played there, so surely I'll be good in college. Talk about how prepared you, but how there was probably still a jump even above that level to get you to play in the SEC.
So I think that that's a great point. I think a lot of times, you see the downfalls and the pitfalls of a lot of student athletes, or those who were, the best on their team. They come to college and they, expect some type of thing. They expect to play, they expect to start. But I think what people don't realize is that a lot of these schools, was I recruited? Was I one of the best on the team? Maybe, but so was everybody else in my recruiting class.
Right.
And I just think I had such a realistic view of college and myself and what I could perform and what I could do, that I knew walking in that it was going to be hard. I knew walking in I had all Americans that were, playing on the fields, and I was, 18 years old coming out of high school, and I'm playing with 22, 23-year-olds. And I just think that having such a realistic view, you don't have to put yourself down, but you just have to kind of understand that, when you go to college, everybody around you is on the same playing field now. You aren't above anybody just because I think it was easy to look at, travel ball, different players, people wore the stickers on their helmets. And you're like, oh, she's going to the SEC. They look at her and they're like, oh, well, she's probably better than me because I'm not going to the SEC. Well, that's not the same ballpark when you get into college. And I just think when you start to think that people owe you things, that you stop working hard. And when you start thinking that, just because you have a name and you are who you are, and just because you got to this point that you deserve something, but I think you need to humble yourself and, kind of start over and start from scratch and just think of yourself as a completely new player. That way, the path that you need to take so that you can earn a starting spot and that you can compete. I think it's better to think that you're a nobody and then to then become a somebody than it is to think that you're a somebody and realize that you aren't.
Yeah, it's actually a great comment because if you remember my son Aaron, we watched a lot of his games and he's at Texas with Mac Brown in the camper in the big AV you guys had. Mac Brown has a saying that freshmen want to play and upperclassmen want to win. Talk about how that dynamic plays as you come in as a freshman and you're all this and you're all that and you've got the sticker on the back of your helmet and all, had your signing party, but then you get to that level and you find out that, hey, there are some girls, you mentioned it, 22, 23 years old, who have been here 2 or 3 years and they're trying to A, represent the Wildcat program and B, trying to win. And I'm focused on playing. Talk about those two different dynamics from your freshman year.
Well, I definitely think as a freshman, kind of, it's a little bit unfair, but I think every freshman coming in is kind of at a disadvantage because not only are you tasked with, competing just as well as your peers who have been there for a couple of years, but you're also tasked with figuring out the college life and figuring out, how practice works. What is the team dynamic? What is the team culture? And I think the quicker that you can pick up on it, and something that actually benefited me was, I enjoyed hanging out with the upperclassmen. I enjoyed making friends with the people who were 2, 3 years older than me because, excuse me, I knew that they knew what they were doing and I could pick up on things faster. And I think it's something as simple as, you show up to practice and it's mentally draining the first couple weeks, but just, it's kind of like being in the classroom. You just have to sit down, you have to shut up, and you have to listen. You have to watch, and you have to pick up very quickly on what people are doing around you. And the quicker that you can pick up on things, the more of an advantage that you are at. Because we automatically are at a disadvantage when you come into college because we don't know the dynamic of anything. And the quicker you pick up on that, the more that you can compete on the same level as these girls who have been here for 2, 3 years. And that is going to put you above not only your classmates, but above them.
Kayla, it's funny to get to know you for so long and watch you play at Kentucky. You and I talked about it before we came on the air. You talked about how, you were the player you are today is not the player you were back at 10, 11 years old. I have watched you physically grow in maturity and everything else. Tell us how you went from the little quiet mouse catcher that would catch 8 games in a row to this fiery, passionate person who just loves to compete in the Wildcat uniform. Talk about how you've made that slow transition from the quiet little catcher to who you are today, who's really kind of a leader in the program right now.
Well, I definitely, so, as you said, I haven't always been like this. I think a big turning point for me was my transition from Texas Bombers to the Austin Stars. But there was a lot of, I had a lot of negativity towards not only myself, but a lot of people were just, I wasn't the player I was. Nobody's ever the player they are when they're 10 years old. But I mean, especially me. I couldn't hit worth a darn. I was very small. I think I was like 5 foot tall, maybe 90, maybe 90 pounds. I was just, not quite built yet for this. And I not to talk down on it, but I don't think I had the coaches who wanted to invest the time in me and to help me become the player that I could be and I am today. And that was kind of the main reason why we transitioned, because, I'm sitting here. This was back when I was right-handed and I was hitting and I couldn't hit worth a darn. And, you know, we had this crazy idea finally when we switched over to the Austin Stars that, it can't get any worse. Why don't I try slapping? And you guys actually let me do that. Like, I wasn't allowed to do that beforehand. Texas Bombers are like, why are you slapping? All this stuff. And you guys were there for me, help me develop that, help me, master my skill and really invest time in me. And I wouldn't even say it was much from a physical standpoint of like, you guys helped me become a physical athlete, which you did. But I think it was just, I looked at you guys as, you Placido, Gary, as, second, third, fourth father figures. And, just that, especially at such a young age, I wasn't going to be recruited at 12 years old. Just having that and that background and, having you guys as, little stepping stools until I finally was able to, grow up on my own and I didn't need the stepping stools anymore. You guys definitely helped. And it was just you guys having the confidence in me to finally, now I start to have the confidence in me. And the girls that we played with were absolutely amazing. We all cheered on for each other. We were all supportive. It didn't matter who was playing, didn't matter who was on the bench. We were all best buds and we absolutely loved what we did. We loved our small team. We loved the culture we had. And that definitely, I think, was the start and the turning point for me, slowly, not only shooting up in my height, but also in my confidence. And when I went to Texas Glory, I had the same thing. And I can't stress it enough how big it is to, you put so much time into a program and you put so much of your time into a sport that, finding the right people and the right coaches who, not you invest your time in them, to have them invest their time in you, not just in sport, but outside of the field and, making sure that you are okay mentally and making sure that, how's school going? And I know multiple times that you've threatened boys and, don't get boyfriends and stuff like that. And I just think that that is such an underrated, it's not softball, but I think it's so underrated and, developing the confidence that is required to play this sport at such a high level. And it finally, took me a couple years up until I was in, middle school and then getting into high school that, I finally was able to understand what everybody had been telling me that like, Kayla, you're a good athlete. And I was like, I think I understand that now. And I think I'm finally catching on to it. I'm still hard-headed. And that was probably, I'm very upset that it took me so long to like finally understand that and understand myself. But it just takes, finding the right people who love you and want to invest time in you outside of just you performing on the softball field.
Well, Kayla, your career has definitely moved up into the right and you peaked at the right time. You obviously had a great freshman year, but something happened. You had a phenomenal sophomore year. I don't know what you did. We never really talked about it. I just knew that. I just expected that from you because you just always understood that in order to get somewhere higher than where you are, you got to put the work in. What happened, in your own words, what happened between your freshman year and your sophomore year, you to put up, just ungodly numbers in sophomore year? And how did that process look?
I think, I hate to say this, but I think that, COVID helped. You just like, I wasn't allowed in our facilities and I wasn't allowed, to really go many places. And I was able to hone my craft and, make sure that if I couldn't hit off a machine and if I couldn't hit 65 miles an hour off a machine, then, dang sure that I was going to make sure my mechanics were right off of a tee. Or, I'm spending the time that I need to make sure that this skill is really, really good. I'm good at bunting. I'm good at this. And I think that that's definitely something that I think as the years have gone, I kind of like to add a skill. And, I just kind of was very blessed that, this is the year that all three of my skills are working. I could hit the long ball, I could slap, I could bunt. But I think it just comes down to, like in high school, multi-sport athlete, I did a lot. I was very diverse. I like to do the same thing when I'm playing softball. I like to do a lot of things. I like to, do things that people don't expect. I'm a catcher. I steal bases. I like to slap. I like to bunt. I like to hit, and just, mixing things up. And I don't necessarily think it's necessarily all skill, but I think it's partly mental of, making sure that I'm keeping the defense on their toes. The minute I become an easy out, that I've lost my job. I can get out. I got out a lot this season, but if I made myself a hard out, then I knew that I was doing my job.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, especially in this day and age, everyone's like, I want to hit the long ball. I want to hit a home run.
Yeah.
But, I I've never been one to hit home runs up until this year, apparently. So, so mentally, I was never like, I never step in the box and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm about to hit this thing over the fence. I'm sitting there, I'm like, where can I put this ball so I can get on base, so I can help my team by, stealing a base, or someone else can move me. And I think we sometimes skip too many steps, and we skip to, how am I going to make the big play? How am I going to do the game winning play? But, doing the small things,
Doing the little things.
doing the little things in big situations is going to get you a lot farther than trying to do big things in big situations. Because when you swing big, you miss big. But, high risk, high reward. But I've always been one for, doing the little things and making sure that, small crafts are kind of what I do and what I really enjoy, kind of being a terror on the field with. So,
Yeah. Okay, we talked about it earlier. There's a groundbreaking, reform going on in the NCAA right now, and with your brand being at an all-time high right now, what are your thoughts on NIL, name, image, likeness, in the news today that all Title IX athletes will be able to take advantage of that? Give us your ideas or your opinions on NIL from your standpoint midway through your college career.
absolutely, Coach Anthony. So this is kind of something. So I'm a part of SAC. So student athletes, our committee here on campus. I'm one of our softball leaders. So this is kind of something that I've kind of gotten to see a little bit through the steps and the workings in the last year or two. I can't remember. We voted on it. I'm pretty sure 2 years ago, 1 year ago. But this has kind of been something that I've gotten to hear a little bit about and a little bit about and a little bit about, but definitely didn't really think it'd get passed just from, historical standpoint. I absolutely support it. And I think that it is something that probably should have been passed a long time ago. We invest so much time in our sport, and we invest so much time into the universities that we play for. And especially as a female athlete, not many of us can wait for the pro leagues. In quotations, it's growing, and what they're doing is very good, but a lot of us can't wait until the pro leagues, because the height of our career, I look at college softball as the MLB. Like, this is our form of the MLB.
Right.
And what name, image, and likeness does is it allows us to profit up on the peaks of our career, the highest point of our career now. And I definitely think we're late in the game. The NCAA is late in the game and passing this, but definitely is a good time to jump on it. And we'll see what happens when we're allowed to start doing stuff. I think it's tomorrow, but I'm very interested to see what happens and what goes on with that. But definitely keeping eyes and ears and opportunities open for anything that comes my way that I'm interested in.
Yeah, if anybody is not following Mago KK on Twitter, she has a great sense of humor and just has these great creative posts. So if you're bored one day, just go check out her timeline, and her little one sentence posts are sometimes so fun, they're so entertaining, but they're also insightful. It's just, she's somebody that you'll definitely want to follow for entertainment. KK, as we finish up here, I thank you for the time. Let's talk about life after softball. Eventually you're going to graduate and you may play a little pro softball, but we know eventually our sport comes to an end. What does KK want to do when her sport is over and you're going to make that transition onto life after your sport?
Absolutely. So kind of currently I'm kind of mapping out, my future and my plan. And right now, definitely looking into the 5th year for COVID so that I can go take my master's and go get my master's. So I am currently getting a dual degree. So I'm getting 2 degrees in management and in accounting. Okay. And I will finish up with that here in the next 2 semesters. And I kind of have a couple routes that I can go. I haven't quite settled on any of them, but I'm looking into getting my master's, and I have the option to study and take my CPA. But I definitely long run, next 5-10 years, definitely I want to work in the softball field.
Okay.
If that leads me to coaching, that's fine. If that leads me, somewhere else, that is okay too. I just know I want to work around softball and I want to work around players. And if that's from a director standpoint, if that's dealing with money for a league, that's, that's okay too. Coaching, I give lessons now, but this sport has given so much to me that I kind of feel like it's wrong for me not to try and give it back, because I know what such an influence that, my coaches have had on me, and, the college students that I used to take lessons from when I was younger have had such a big impact and such a big influence that, I would hate to miss an opportunity to help, inspire some kid who is exactly like me and needs a little boost.
Well, I think you've done that already. I mean, you shared so many great nuggets in this interview today. And for all the parents and young softball players who are watching this, don't think you're automatically gonna wake up one day like, yep, I'm a finished product. The story you just heard from KK, starting from somebody who people didn't have confidence in her, which led to her not having much confidence in herself, finding people that believed in her both on and off the field, and going to another organization and continue to develop with that. And then now it's kind of the pinnacle of having just one of the greatest softball seasons here as a sophomore, and still many yet to come. I mean, I want to imagine. I tell people who know that I know you that you're just seeing scratch the surface. This girl has got a lot more to give. So don't be surprised if 2 years from now that she's even surpassing the stats from her sophomore year. I'm proud of you. I love you and your family. You know that. Me and Val, and I heard this story, and I know we're getting late here, but I get emotional when Val and AJ were at the A&M game when they were recruiting her, and they saw you and your reaction. Just like, I love the fact that our Austin Stars girls will always have that bond, that bond, whether it's through softball and afterwards. You guys just, those experiences we had, you guys will stay together and support each other. So that really brought me to tears when I heard about that response. But I love you. I'm proud of you. I'll definitely reach back out to you. Have a great summer. Get some rest. It was a long season for you, and just keep doing yourself. I can't believe how much information you shared tonight with the student athletes who really need to get an understanding of what life is really like, starting from the bottom, getting to the top, and then getting to a school that they want and getting the education and having the experience you're having. So I do appreciate all the information you shared tonight.
Thank you so much, Coach Anthony. I cannot express how much you've helped me and how big of an influence you are. It's been 10 years, and, I don't think a day goes by where I don't, see you on Twitter or, think about you. So thank you for all that you do, and whatever you're like, this podcast, this program that you're putting together, absolutely beneficial. And I love that you're doing it.
Well, thank you. Hey, we'll talk soon. Maybe we can, next time in Texas, we'll get together, me, you, AJ, and Gabby, have lunch. And like I said, have a great summer, and get some rest, okay?
Absolutely.
All right, we'll talk to you. Thanks, KK.
Absolutely. Thank you, Coach Anthony. Love you tons.
Bye-bye.